Guys, why is it that you've seen this on YouTube and you've seen this in Watchtower videos on the orientation on Bethelites? The elders are obsessed with masturbation, and so is Watchtower. And their viewpoint of sex is wrong. And the number one reason why is because they're perverts. Only perverts would want to talk to you about such a subject. Don't talk about this subject ever with other men. It's just wrong, and it's private and should always be private. And like Norm Macdonald says, the comedian, if you're masturbating, you're the only one in the whole earth who does it. So stop. But that's the comedian for you. But the point is I'm answering it right off the gate. The reason Watchtower and the elders do this is because they're perverts. I remember, I'll tell you this real quick story. When I was leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, I was here in Phoenix, and in Yuma, the English congregation would not send my publisher cards. And the lazy Spanish congregation wanted me to do their job, and they were yelling at me, literally all upset that my cards hadn't arrived. And they were mad at me. And I was like, that's your job. So anyways, the old man, he was like about 70 years old, and he was all mad at me, yelling and screaming, literally yelling and screaming. He goes, we got problems here. And this is where I told God, I go, you know what? If I have to put up with this in order to live in Paradise Earth, you can have Paradise Earth. So the old man told me, he said, we have problems, serious problems in this congregation. And he says, we have a lot of kids, young boys, who have masturbation problems. That's when I told God, I go, no, it's over. And then there was the three of them were sitting down in the back room, and they wanted me to sit down and talk to them. I was like, I wasn't born last night, I knew the gig. They were trying to do a judicial committee on me, and I wasn't even a member of their congregation, so I just walked out and never returned. I just knew that, hey, if go ahead, God, punish me. Go ahead, Jesus, strike me down. If I have to be with these losers, so be it. But anyways, the whole problem is a perverted view of sex with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And we're going to talk about that. Now, in my last video talking about the black dreadlocks, I use that Bible text, whatever it is you're doing, work at it whole soul to the Lord and not for men. And so what the problem with masturbation and sex, the viewpoint of sex, is because people in religion are being taught, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. So if you tell a kid don't do something, we all know a kid's going to want to do it because, it's the forbidden fruit. Don't do it. So instead of elevating the human being, instead of making the person be a better person, you're actually bringing them down with all of these rules. And Watchtower is smart enough to know that their method of scaring people about sex is actually going to drive them towards sex. So, in a way, it's insidious because they know that there's a better way. And I'm going to talk about the better way when you're talking about masturbation or you're talking about premarital sex. So, and the way they talk about it is from a perverted point of view, in my opinion. So when it comes to sex, that Bible text that I mentioned in the last video, Colossians 3:23, whatever it is you're doing, work it a whole soul to the Lord and not for men. What are you doing? Well, you're having sex. Well, are you having sex to whole soul for the Lord? Are you doing it because you want to praise God? You want to work with God to do something, to work with Him? Because Jesus says if you're not working with Him, you're scattering. You're wasting your time. You really are wasting your time if you're just going through life and you're not working with our Father in heaven. So our Father gave us hands. He gave us brains, right? We use our brains when we go to school as kids. How are you using these tools that God gave you? And one of the tools is you women have beautiful, breasts, and you have beautiful rear ends and beautiful form and shape. How are you using that? Are you using that in a way that makes a strong family, or are you using it in a way to glorify yourself, or like in that video I did on the last video with Elaine, where you're just to have fun? Same thing with a man. So you have a vagina and you have a penis. Are you using these tools that God gave you to build, or are you just scattering? So see, if you use the tools that God gave you and you work with Him, then what? You have children, you have a family, and then you have extended family and so forth. And that means you're working with Jesus. You're working with Him and you're not scattering. So, and that doesn't apply just with your sexual organs, that applies with everything else. With your brain, right? With your hands and so forth, with your money. Everything that you do, you're either doing it to work with Jesus, our Father, or you're scattering. You're just, well, I'm just going to have fun. Okay, go ahead and have fun. How's that going to work out for you? You're going to have a son over here with this man. You're going to have a daughter over here with this man. And your whole family is going to be destroyed. When you could have just said, you know what, I'm going to work with God. I'm going to work with Jesus. And everything I do, including sex, I'm going to use it. I'm going to do it as I'm going to work at it. I understand that it's a tool, and I'm going to use that tool to actually build something. Now, the other thing, and this is very interesting, how Watchtower in their Bible, their silver shank in the new one, they tore out the best part of the Bible, John chapter 8, where Jesus says, he that is without sin cast the first stone. Now, in that, notice how Watchtower tore that out, because in that, look, this is how Watchtower is perverted when they talk about sex, and we compare Watchtower's ways with Jesus's ways. In that part, in John 8, the woman is getting ready to be stoned. She's on all fours. She's on her knees and she's on her hands, and they're getting ready to stone her to death. And she's trembling. She's trembling like an animal, just like a dog or a cat in a corner. And she's getting ready to die. Why? Because she's a fornicator. She adulteress. But notice that the man that she was having an affair with, he ain't getting stoned. Only she is. And so Jesus comes into the picture. And he says, he that is without sin cast the first stone. Nobody casts a stone. Everybody walks away. Then Jesus lifts her up. And she goes, you don't judge me? And he goes, I don't judge you. He goes, go and sin no more. So here we have a case where Jesus gets a woman who's on her knees and on her hands, on all fours, trembling, lifts her up where she stands upright, proud, and instead of trembling in fear, is now trembling in excitement, in joy, and in love. And so she goes and she sins no more, not because Jesus says, fornication is bad, adultery is bad. No, because Jesus won her over with love. And she loves Jesus so much. The love is so great that now she's starting to tremble for a different reason. And the idea of not working with Jesus and not working with our Father in heaven when it comes to our sexual organs is now out of the picture. She's like, no, from now on, everything I have, my sexual organs will be used to glorify God. My vagina or my penis will be used to build something and to work with God in creation and to build a family and to praise God. And then now goes the other thing about the masturbation. Well, before I get into that, notice the difference how Jesus uplifts the human being, whereas Watchtower tears that part from their Bible and then brings the person down with a bunch of rules on porneia. And the Greek word is porneia, and then this. And if honest to God, if you masturbate, that's not porneia. But if you masturbate and you're on the phone on a 1-900 number or with a girl and you're talking dirty, that's porneia. All of these little crazy rules. And so they make all of these rules, and they basically invalidated the Bible. They've invalidated the whole thing. They're perverts because now they want to talk about they want to know they want to do a play-by-play analysis of whatever they're accusing you of. And so by doing that, they reduce the human being. They bring him down. Whereas Jesus says, go and sin no more. He elevated the person. He elevated the person, remember, from fear to ecstasy and joy. From all fours on the ground to standing tall and being joyful and thankful and grateful that her life was spared. And she saw the big picture. Now, so we know Watchtower, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, you guys are perverts. You're perverts because you want to know the play-by-play. You want to know the details. And you're not like Jesus, where you're elevating the human being. Jesus wasn't worried about the details. He didn't want to know the details. He wanted to change your heart, and he wanted you to work with him for the betterment of society. Now we're going to talk about masturbation. The thing about masturbation with Watchtower, again, don't do it, and they do it wrong, because they insinuate that every time you masturbate, you're breaking the where Jesus said in the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, that you're lusting over somebody. And before every action, before you fornicate, well, you're probably whacking off a whole bunch of times, so that's why it led you to fornication. No, 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 no. That's only going to drive a kid toward fornication. It's very simple when you talk to young men and women about masturbation. It's real simple. Because in that, when Jesus was talking about looking at a woman with lust in your eyes, that's adultery in your heart. But see, he's trying to help you understand that we're not animals. We don't. A lot of humans are animals because they're like dogs. They go and they scratch and sniff and they go, "Oh, you're in heat. Let's have sex." Okay, I'm in heat. Let's have sex. And you're just like animals. You're just like, "Oh, I don't know. It's 3:00 on a Sunday. I guess I gotta have sex." You're an animal. You're not a human. You haven't elevated it. So you have to help the young men and young women understand there's a difference between the animal kingdom and the spirit kingdom. And God made us in his image. We're spirits. So, but yet we're in a fleshly body. So we're animals in a sense. And we understand the carnal desires of sex. But when Jesus says that you committed adultery in your heart by looking at, staring at the women, he's trying to help you understand that if you don't have control of your eyes, what do you have control of? Well, if you don't have control of your eyes, you don't have control of your mouth and your tongue and the things that you say. And if you don't have control of your ears and you don't have control of your hands, well, then you've resorted into the animal kingdom where you just act on instinct. But as human beings, we control. It's all about control. If you can control your hands and you can control your mouth by the things that you say, you can control your ears by the things that you allow yourself to listen to, and you can control your eyes, you really are learning to be a spiritual person. You're elevating the human being. It's kind of like the Star Wars. Remember when he goes and he goes, "We don't need those badges. We don't need those passes." And he goes, and they finally they let him in, and they finally tried it with Jabba the Hutt. And Jabba goes, "Those Jedi mind tricks don't work on me." He told that to Luke Skywalker, and the Jedi mind tricks do work on a lot of people. The Jedi, the mind tricks like pornography and all that other stuff, they work on people. People fall for it because they're weak in their mind, they're weak in their eyes, they're weak in their ears, they're weak in their hands. And because they're weak, they give in. So when you're talking to a young person, says you're telling them, you have to ask yourself, do you want to elevate the human race? Do you want to elevate yourself as a spiritual person? Or are you going to lower? Are you going to stay in the animal kingdom? And do you want to be a person that has control of your eyes or your brain and so forth? The other thing is this: when it comes to premarital sex and masturbation, all that stuff, you have to understand that for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. Jesus says, treat others the way you want to be treated. So if you go and you have sex with that young girl, right? You both young boys and girls, and you go and have sex with that girl. Well, what you're doing is you're disrespecting not only her, but you're disrespecting her mother and her father, because you're not letting her mother and father know that you're banging her, right? You're doing everything in secret. So just like things happen, just like the way you did things, it's a boomerang. It's going to come back to you. People are going to treat your children the way you treated your girlfriend and your wife, if you ever marry her. So you see, so if you want to go ahead and go down that road and you want to treat women that way, don't worry. Karma is a bitch, and karma is going to come back and get you. So you don't. So this thing about depriving yourself of certain sexual activities or certain sexual, intercourse at different times, it's not that you're depriving yourself because you're trying to, be a good person or score points in the church. No, you're depriving yourself because you know that there's something better. There's something better. And what's that? What's better? A wife, kids, family, grandchildren, extended family. So you're helping people understand that we can live like animals or we can live like the Spirit. We can elevate ourselves. We can learn to control our desires and use those desires and control them in a way where we can now work with God and we can work with Jesus for our benefit. And it's never too late to do that. So some of you didn't do it, and some of you guys go on all these YouTube shows, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, and you tell everybody about what horn dogs you guys used to be. And kind of like in a glorifying, back in my days, when I was a young Jehovah's Witness and I left, I was a horn dog. And it's like, why do you guys do that? I don't know. People do that, but you don't have to be that way no more. You can actually change, and you can say, you know what, Gilbert is right, like he says in his voting ballot. Gilbert, the GG for, that's why I'm GG for GB, is that you can at any time refuse and say, I'm done living like this. I want to elevate the human being. I want to be like that woman that Jesus elevated. I want to be elevated to a point where I'm so filled with love and appreciation for everything God has given me, my sexual organs and my sexual identity, the whole thing, right? My manhood, my womanhood, or whatever. You're so happy and you're so grateful, and now you want to use it to better society, to better your family, and that, my friends, is not what Watchtower teaches, because they're perverts, and instead they want to like I said earlier, they want a play-by-play analysis of your sexual activities. So that's the difference between the way I, as GG for GB, talk about sex when I talk to my friends versus how a Jehovah's Witness elder would talk to you. That's why I say I'm the Jehovah's Witness elder you wish you had when you were going to the Kingdom Hall. When you were going to the Kingdom Hall, somebody like me would have talked to you this way. And on another video I'm going to do about, I have to do this for a YouTube channel, XJW Yes Man. I told them I got to do a video in a judicial case I had, and it was we were specifically talking about in the judicial case about this particular subject. But so I hope I helped you understand that if you are a young person and you want to, say, live with somebody and have sex, just living together, you're selling yourself short. That's why the Bible says, you're sinning against yourself. 1 Corinthians, Paul said that. But Watchtower takes it to a different extreme. You're sinning against yourself because here you could have the best, a Wagyu beef steak, but instead you have roadkill. And you're choosing roadkill over the very best prime. So, and also, you're also hurting yourself because the way you're treating each other when it comes to sex, remember, karma's a bitch. It comes back. If you do this to another man's daughter and another woman's daughter, imagine what they're going to do to you. Everything in life, remember, for every action there is an opposite and equal reaction. So says Isaac Newton. And that is true with sex. So don't be afraid of sex. And don't deny yourself sex for the sake of denying. But deny sex or masturbation for the sake of uplifting, because you want to become better. And so you are an adult and you know what to do. I don't need to give you a play-by-play analysis. I don't need to tell you, well, that's okay and that's not okay, or this is okay or this is not okay. I'm not going to tell you if making out or touching each other's private parts or, playing with each other. I'm not going to go into that. That's perverted. That's what Watchtower does. They're perverts. That's what your Jehovah's Witness elders do, because they're perverts. What I'm trying to tell you is Jesus elevates the human being. When you teach another human being to love everything that they have, to love their body, to love their sexual organs, and use them whole soul as to the Lord, use them with God. He says, God, I want to use my sexual organs I want to use them in a way that honors you. And you know the blessing, and you want the blessing. Now, some don't want the blessing, they just want the soup. God, I just want the soup. Just give me the damn soup. Whereas another person says, no, I want the birthright. Like my website shows, ggforgb.com. I want the birthright. And in order for you to fight for the birthright, to have the birthright, you have to fight for it. It's hard. It's hard being a young 18, 19, 20-year-old, controlling your masturbation habits, controlling your desires to be with these women. It's hard. But you're fighting for the birthright. And what's a birthright? A wife and children and grandchildren and extended family. You see, everything in life isn't free. It comes at a price. And the stuff that is free, well, not good. No, my friends. Well, so that is the difference between the way Watchtower teaches sex because they're perverts and the way I, GG for GB, are talking to you about sex. And so when you say, going back to the original, why is the internet filled with Jehovah's Witness stories of masturbation and the elders? Because they're perverts. And they're not uplifting like Jesus is, and that's why they tore out John 8 from their Bible. And now, my friends, you know the rest of the story. That's why they tore it out, because they're perverts. They don't elevate the woman. They don't elevate the man. But you can. Another point before I close out the video. So, do you remember when Jesus says, if he can't trust you with these small things, how can he trust you with greater things? So, in the same subject, it's very clear. Carl Sagan, the scientist, talked about how we here on Earth, we live in the third dimension. And when he explained the second and the first, well, it kind of sounded like hell. They don't have a height, width, and length. It's kind of like underneath the ground. It's just, length and width. But anyways, so he talked about, in order for you to travel in the solar system, you really do need like a fourth dimension body. And in order for you to travel, say, in the sun clusters of Earth, go to Alpha Centauri, you probably need a fifth dimensional body and a sixth dimensional body if you want to travel into the arms of the Milky Way. And then a seventh or eighth dimensional body to travel within the galaxy. And then if you're going to go from one galaxy to another, you need a different body. And all of these times you need a different body upon a different body to travel in time and space. And it's fascinating stuff if you ever watch it. But here's the thing. If sex is so pleasurable and so wonderful in the third dimension, imagine what awaits you and I in the fourth dimension. But if Jesus can't trust you with a vagina, and Jesus can't trust you with a penis, because look what you did with your penis. I mean, think about it. Look at what you've done with your penis. And look at what you've done with your vagina. If you can't be trusted with your penis and you can't be trusted with your vagina, if you can't be trusted with a plant, a marijuana plant, if you can't be trusted with these things, how is Jesus going to trust you with something more beautiful in the fourth dimension? So you're like, oh, wow, I want the fourth dimension ecstasy. Well, hold on a minute. You can't even handle the third dimension ecstasy. And you'll be like Tom Cruise, I want the truth. And Jack Nicholson is like, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the ecstasy in the next dimension because of your total disregard for everything that is holy and beautiful in the third. And don't you understand? So it's not to reprimand you or to punish you, but as a young man, you look, if you can't be trusted with these things, if I can't trust you with the cash register, how am I going to give you a pay raise and make you a manager of the store? It's all the same. It's keeping it very simple. If you can't be trusted with a penis, how are you going to be trusted with a family? If you can't be trusted with a vagina, how are you going to be trusted with a family? Do you understand the big picture? So When we start viewing things from not a perverted view like Watchtower, we start viewing things from like what Jesus is trying to teach us, that we're trying to elevate the human experience. We're trying to elevate from being just human to being a spirit creature. And that process takes work. Are all of you going to do it without falling? No. But it can be done, is the point. So I don't know what happens after death, but I know that whatever awaits us in the next dimension of life, whatever that is, it's going to be a little bit better than what it is here on earth. And even if we do stay on earth, it doesn't matter. It will be better. And life is pretty beautiful here on earth. So to imagine in the next stage of life that it's going to be even greater, well, all the more reason why we should show gratitude for the things that we have today. And my dad would always say there's two types of people. There's grateful and there's ungrateful. And that goes with people with penises. There's two types of men. Men who are grateful that they have a penis and use it, and men who don't give a shit and use their penises in a way and like, just give me my suit. And the same thing with women. Some women are grateful that they have a vagina and they use their vagina in such a way that uplifts humanity. And other women don't. They use it in a way where it brings down the individual. So it's kind of like in the series with Harrison Ford in Raiders of the Lost Ark, when he goes, he has all these choices, he has to choose. And the knight tells him, well, you got to make a choice. You got to choose, but you have to choose wisely. And then when the guy drank and then he dies, what did the knight say? Well, he chose poorly. And that's my message to you. When it comes to sex, remember, you have to choose wisely, make wise choices. Because the wise choices you make today are only going to make your future even brighter. And in the fourth dimension, you'll be experiencing more Watchtower likes to use the word climax. You will have more ecstasy in the fourth dimension than you have here in the third dimension of life. So I hope that helps. If you can be trusted with these things today, you can be trusted with greater things tomorrow. So Watchtower doesn't teach you that because they're a bunch of perverts. That's why they want to know the play-by-play analysis of your sex life. Okay, going now to the end of this video. So guys, I hope you like this video. I hope I explained it. And if you have any confessions that you want to make, don't confess them to me. Don't ever tell anybody about your masturbation problems, ever. It's a subject that should always be avoided at all costs, unless you're talking perhaps to a medical doctor or your mom or dad. Other than that, don't ever, ever talk about this subject. Okay, guys, that's it. That's all I have. And hopefully on the next video, I'll talk about the disfellowshipping case I had where we talked about this specific subject. And I was the elder in that disfellowshipping committee. All right, talk to you guys later.